Right. Hello and welcome to the video. Just wanted to quickly hop on here and bring you some 2024 World's Strongest Man predictions just the night before the competition starts. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get right into it. Just talk a little bit about the competitors and the events real quick. And just as a quick note, these athletes are just ordered in order of their alphabetical name. So, this isn't the actual final order of my predictions. So anyways, just going off of the alphabet, first of all, we have Ivar's Smokstelis making his second World's Strongest Man final since 2020. We have Austin Andrade, a rookie making his first final, either the first or one of the first people representing South America to make the World's Strongest Man final. We have Evan Singleton making his second final as well. Definitely a guy that's looking to make the podium this year. We have Luke Stoltman making what I believe is his fourth or fifth World's Strongest Man final. Let me see, 2019, 2021, 2, 3. So this would be Luke's fifth World's Strongest Man final. We have Matthew Ragg making his second World's Strongest Man final after just being a rookie last year. Definitely another guy who's been talked about as possibly being on the podium this year. We've got Mitchell Hooper. I don't know if you guys have heard of this guy, but he's the current World's Strongest Man. Definitely looking to add another title to his catalog here. Followed by Pablo Cordiaca making his second World's Strongest Man final as well. Tom Stoltman, two-time World's Strongest Man, looking to make that three times and hopefully not get tied up by Mitchell Hooper here, trying to avoid a two versus two World's Strongest Man titles tie. Then we got another rookie here, Tristan Hoth, who actually won his group. Um, Pretty sure he shocked a lot of people. Pretty sure he didn't shock a lot of people. A lot of people are really backing this guy this year. And then followed by Wesley Derwinski, another Canadian rookie, making it three Canadians in this World's Strongest Man final, the most representation out of any country. All right, and so in terms of my predictions for the heats, um, I was sort of not bad. I got Ivar's Austin Andrade. He was not in my predictions, but instead of him, I had Foitu coming out of that group, which Andrade actually ended up beating in a stone off. We got Evan, Luke, Rag, Hooper, all of those guys I predicted in the final, as well as Cordiaca and Stoltman. Now, two big surprises again. Typically, these surprises are coming from the rookies, are Tristan Hoth and Wesley Derwinski. Now, in Derwinski's group, I predicted Bobby to come through. Unfortunately, he sustained an injury on the first event and had to pull out. So we had Derwinski qualifying through that group. Not to say that if Bobby wasn't injured, that he wouldn't have qualified, but just sort of why my prediction kind of fell short there. And then Tristan Hoth, who I 100% was underrating uh, in my predictions. Very he impressed very much so. Anyways, so the events, we have the Giants medley, which is going to be a 330 kilogram frame into a approximately 1,000 pound or 455 kilogram yoke. 20 meters each, I believe, in distance. We have the max axle press, pretty self-explanatory. Whoever can lift the most amount of weight from the ground to overhead on an axle bar is going to win that event. We have the max keg toss, again, sort of self-explanatory. It's for height, not for weight. So whoever's going to be able to toss a 15 kilogram or 33-pound keg as high as possible is going to be winning this event. We have the Conan's wheel for distance. Basically, they're going to have to carry a certain amount of weight. I believe it's around 200 to 250 kilograms. Um, Sort of in their arms or around a wheel or a circular pattern. Whoever gets the most distance on that is going to win that event. Deadlift, um, again, pretty self-explanatory. It's for reps. I've heard it's around 360 kilograms. So a little bit heavier than last year, but sort of an expected weight, nothing that these guys haven't handled before, to be honest. And again, it's for reps. And then finally, the Atlas stones, which everybody is used to, I'm sure. Traditionally, the Atlas stones are just placed in front of the podiums that they're supposed to be lifted on. But in these past couple years, they've been sort of spaced out a bit farther away from the podium, basically making the athletes have to pick them up and carry them over to the podium, which makes it a little bit more difficult and adds a little bit more time to that event. So anyways, let's go ahead and get right into these predictions. Now, I have this all blacked out here just so that nothing gets revealed immediately, but I'm going to go ahead and sort this out just by the order of points for the first event. So let's see here. Let's go largest to smallest and then unveil this. All right, so here are the results that I'm predicting for the Giants medley. We got the rookies here in rounding out the bottom three athletes here, which again, I'll preface this, I'm probably underestimating these guys. I've got Rag here, only scoring 4 points, which maybe is a little bit surprising to some people, but I'm just leaving him there because I think that he might lose points, not because he won't be able to finish, but mostly just due to speed. So hopefully he's able to, put out a pretty fast performance, or else a lot of these other speedy guys are going to be able to knock some points off of him. We've got Ivar's in fifth. He's generally just, a pretty well-rounded guy for any event, so he'll definitely be placing around mid-pack for most of these events. We've got Luke with 6 points. He's has decent speed, has done similar events before, good experience. We got Pavlo in seventh, who is again one of the fastest guys here, but might just lose out on a little bit of speed under something like a yoke or a frame when compared to a loading event. I've got Tom in third place. Uh, and then Evan in second place. I think that Evan will be able to just outspeed Tom, just basically because Evan is a little bit better than Tom on the yoke. So I definitely think that that's going to contribute to Evan beating Tom here. And then Mitchell Hooper in first place. Hooper's probably just the fastest guy um, in this field when it comes to a frame, and definitely when it comes to a yoke. So that basically rounds out the first event there. Now let's move on to the max axle press. Going to do the same thing, just reveal some results here and order it from first to last. All right, so again, rounding out the bottom, I have the rookies, which again, I'll preface, I may be underestimating some of these guys, but I definitely did notice that some of these guys, more so the rookies, just lack some of the experience on an axle, so it's pretty hard to predict where they're going to end up, especially with the cleaning of the axle. It's definitely something that takes a lot of practice to get good at. Um, so I do think that Tristan and Derwinski, they might end up tying sort of on that first weight. Then I have another three-way tie here between Andrade, Rag, and Smoxtelis, sort of on that second weight. Andrade and Rag, they're really good pressers, but I think the clean on the axle might sort of be their limiting factor here, especially with Rag, who's been on record before this World's Strongest Man mentioning that he's been having a couple problems with his arm. So he just said his arm, which I'm figuring he means a bicep issue, maybe some sort of tweak that, he's not going to really want to push in that aspect, but we'll end up seeing he is definitely one of the best pressers here, but that clean just might be his limiting factor. And then again with Ivar, sort of, a mid-pack performance, pretty well rounded. Luke here in what I believe is fifth place. That might be surprising to some, since Luke for these past couple years has probably been the number one or number two best log lifter in the world. Definitely, at least in the middle of a competition. But this is not the log press, of course. This is the axle. So again, similar to these bottom guys here, I think the clean of the axle is going to be his limiting factor. I have him above some of the other guys just because he's had some pretty decent training on the axle. I believe he's hit a 195 kilogram axle in training, which equates to about 430 pounds. So that is a pretty decent number. So I do think he'll be able to sort of hit that third weight. Um, so then moving on, I have a two-way tie here for what I believe will be that fourth weight, sort of around 200 kilograms maybe, between Pavlo and Evan. Pavlo, he seems to have some pretty good technique on the axle, and Evan, sort of has some pretty decent experience on the axle too, so I think he'll be able to pull off a pretty good number here. Although I do believe Kordiaka has a better chance at hitting around 200 kilograms than Evan. So hopefully Evan doesn't lose out on some points there. Um, but anyways, yeah. Moving on now to the top two guys. I have Tom in second and Hooper um outright beating him here, getting another first place position. I think Tom is definitely capable of something around 200 to 210 kilograms, just based off of his Arnold performance on the axle. He got 4 reps on it, which is a pretty really good performance there. But I just think Hooper is going to be able to edge him out here. Hooper's been looking pretty insane on the axle. Definitely looks like he has the capability to break the world record on this, and I just don't see that from Tom. However, Tom could definitely come out and impress as he's done many times before at World's Strongest Man. So now moving on to the max keg toss. Let me go ahead and unveil here and sort out in terms of largest to smallest points. Rounding out the bottom, again, you see Tristan and Andrade here. However, Derwinski, I do have him a bit higher this time. But anyways, I have Andrade in last place just because I didn't see many results um, for him on the throwing events, and the ones that we did have didn't seem to be that good. Although, of course, as a rookie, he definitely has a lot of room to improve. So we'll end up seeing where he actually places on that day. Then I have Tristan and Luke here. Um, from second to last place at a tie. Luke, he's a good thrower, but I do think that we have some pretty good throwers in this group that might just be able to edge him out there. Sort of similar situation with Tristan. Now, I have a four-way tie up next. Now, I'll say that this four-way tie might just be more so due to it being difficult to really predict where these guys are going to be. So I'll just sort of go one by one. Wesley, he actually has some pretty good throwing results, so I do think he's going to be able to land somewhere around mid-pack, maybe even higher. Rag, he has mentioned that he used to do a lot of throwing events, sort of in his local competitions back in New Zealand, so he'll definitely have experience. And I definitely think he'll be able to place at least mid-pack or even higher. Again, a lot of these guys are sort of prefaced with being mid-pack or higher. I definitely think that that they have room to improve and beat, the next group that I have being Pavlo and Evan. Avar's again, he's actually a really good thrower. Doesn't have that many throw for height results, but if he's a good thrower on a keg series, I'm sure he'll be a good thrower for max. And then sort of same thing with Hooper. Um, I just feel like Evan and Pablo might have a bit more power than him here, but uh, you know, it's kind of foolish to doubt Hooper in my opinion. So I could definitely see Hooper tying in this sort of group here, tying for second or something like that, with the way he's been performing this year. And again, I sort of already touched on Kordiaka and Singleton, both just really powerful. More so Evan, and then Pavlo is just sort of an all-around great technician on all of his events. And then, again, Tom in first place here. He's just the tallest guy. He's done this same exact event before. He's going to have the experience. I think it's going to be really hard to beat Tom here. And if Hooper can, I think if Hooper can tie for second on this event, or even somehow tie with Tom, then he's looking pretty clear for the win. Because I think that this is the event that Tom is going to need to make space between him and Hooper. And if he's unable to do that, then I definitely think he's going to struggle to find some of that space anywhere else. And we'll see why that is as we move on to the next event here, Conan's Wheel. So for the Conan's Wheel, if we look at the bottom here again, uh, again, you see sort of the same guys. I'll say the same thing. They could totally do better than I'm expecting, especially Tristan. I think, let me speak on Tristan actually. I think sort of on the Giants medley, maybe not the brute force events, but things like the Giants medley, the keg toss, the Conan's Wheel, maybe even the Atlas Stones. I think he has a lot of potential to really impress here and take some points off of, some of the bigger names here. Um, I'll definitely say that I don't want to underestimate the guy after the performance that he's put in the heats. It's been really awesome to see, honestly. But sort of just going off of previous results, that's just kind of where I have him most of the time. Um, so yeah, again, kind of rounding out that bottom four is sort of those same guys. Um, I think Wesley just he just sort of had the quote unquote worst results when compared to the other guys on this kind of event. I sort of compared Conan's or Shield carries. Luke, I don't want to say this because it might sound a little mean, but I'm wondering if he's going to be able to maintain his endurance at this point in the competition, and I think that's going to sort of play into his performance here, and I think that he might be sort of gassing out towards this part of the competition. And not only that, but the ordering of the Conan's wheel, meaning the order that these guys are going to go out, is going to really affect the standings here. So if you sort of look at the ordering of the max keg toss, this is going to be the order that they'll come out in. Andrade will come out last, then Luke, then Tristan, and so on. So I definitely think that going so early is going to also hinder his performance here. So then following him, I have Andrade, who doesn't have bad results, honestly. He could maybe get a mid-pack performance here, but I just think that the other guys have a better chance of beating him here. Um, Hoth in fourth, or sorry, with 4 points. I have Ivars here with fifth, which sort of comes down to again the ordering, the ordering that they'll come out in. So since he'll sort of be coming out in the mid pack or in the middle few guys, I think that that's going to hinder his performance. And somebody like Evan, who may or may not have better endurance than him, will definitely have a target to sort of surpass, and that really helps the athlete end up passing those previous guys, if you know what I'm trying to say. Anyways, then I have Tom with 7 points. Now everybody's sort of been talking about this event as Tom's Achilles heel, but I do think that with Tom getting 10 points in the max keg toss and allowing him to come out last out of all these guys, that's going to be a really big advantage. That's going to sort of put him in a position where he's going to be able to say, all right, I definitely have to pass this marker if I want to stay in contention to win this title. And I think that that sort of inspiration is really going to help him. Um, It'd really be amazing to see if he comes out, as the last guy on that event and he sort of sees Hooper's mark and is able to even pass Hooper. Definitely really excited to see what he's able to do there. But I definitely think that these top three guys are sort of the safest picks here. These top three guys are all guys who have won this event in very high level competitions before. So starting off with Rag, he won it against actually Hooper and Kordiaka in the World Tour Finals. Then we have Hooper in second. He won this event, I believe, in his heat, and he also did pretty good in the World Tour Finals. And then I have Kordiaka in first place here, who won it at Europe's Strongest Man last year. So I have Rag in third place here. Sort of just taking into account the ordering that they're going to come out in. I think if Rag sets a distance and then Hooper comes out after him, I do think Hooper's going to be able to beat that. Because although Rag has beaten Hooper at this event, Hooper has also beaten Rag at this event at last year's World's Strongest Man in the heats. So definitely think Hooper's going to be capable of beating Rag there if he comes out after him. And then the reason I have Kordiaka in first place, just due to, or the reason I have Kordiaka in first place, even though he doesn't come out, uh, as the last guy, he does still come out after Hooper, assuming he beats him in the keg toss. And I think that being able to see Hooper's distance as the distance to beat is sort of going to be basically enough for him to win this event. And of course, that's all assuming that he beats Hooper in the keg toss or he comes out after Hooper in the keg toss, if you catch my drift. So, enough talk about that. Let's move on to the deadlift. Now, deadlift was sort of one of the easier events to predict here. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. I have Luke and Kordiaka tied for last place. I definitely think it could go to either one of these guys for the, you know, 1 or 2 point position. So I just have them tied here to serve as sort of a balance. Last year, Kordiaka actually beat Luke in the finals at the deadlift, but Kordiaka's deadlift has sort of been seeming slightly down from then, and Luke's deadlift has been seeming a little bit up from then. So I think a tie here is sort of a reasonable prediction, although either one could beat the other. Then in the next tie here, I have Smockstellis tied with both of the rookie Canadians. Um, so both Hoth and Derwinski, I believe, won the deadlift ladder in their group. So they're both definitely pretty decent at deadlifting right now. And Avars was unable to complete that ladder. However, I don't think that a ladder is Avar's best deadlift event. And I do think that when you deadlift for reps, I think that suits Avars much more. So think that's going to be enough to allow Avars to tie them here on a deadlift. What I will say is that the weight of this deadlift will affect Avar's results, in my opinion. I feel like he'll do better with a lighter weight for reps than a heavier weight for reps. I think when it's lighter, he's going to be able to get more into that rhythm and just start repping it out. Whereas if it's a bit heavier, it's going to be much harder to sort of keep on pumping out those reps, not just due to it being heavier, of course, but um, when it's heavier, it's just a little bit harder to get into that rhythm that allows athletes like Avars to sort of, get a bit more reps out of themselves. All right, so then I have another tie here at 6.5 points, or sort of tied for fourth position between Evan and Andrade. Both are Americans who deadlift 1,000 pounds in a suit. So they're pretty evenly matched when it comes to the deadlift. Although Evan has definitely been making improvements on his deadlift for reps, whereas Andrade has been focusing more on one rep max sort of deadlifting. So maybe Evan does have a little bit of an edge over him here, but I think it's reasonable to say that they sort of tie here. Definitely think they will be close. Then I have Tom here with 8 points for third place. Um, I think Tom could end up tying with maybe Rag or maybe Hooper, but I definitely think that Hooper or Rag is going to take the first place position here. Really just depends on who wants it more, I guess, you know? I think Rag is a better deadlifter than Hooper. Specifically for max, I'd say, or when it's heavier. But Hooper has been shown to be pretty good at deadlift for reps, especially when it matters. And considering that Hooper's Hooper is most likely to come out after these guys, on the deadlift. For example, Hooper according to my predictions, gets second place on the Conans. So he would come out with Pablo, for example, whereas Rag and Tom would come out together. So maybe that ends up having Tom and Rag tie on the deadlift with Hooper beating them, which would be a very big edge to Hooper there. But essentially, I just think that that's sort of a reasonable result there. So I just have them tied with Tom in third. Definitely think Tom will be top three. Definitely think Hooper and Rag will be top one and two. All right, and then finally, very much finally, we get to the Atlas Stones, and this is where the winner of this competition is really going to be decided. So let's go ahead and just reveal the Atlas Stones with the final points and standings. And I'm just going to order it. I guess I'll order it in terms of the total points first. So after the Atlas Stones, I have Mitchell Hooper as the World's Strongest Man champion with 53 points, followed very, very closely by Tom Stoltman at 52 points. And then there's sort of a bit of a gap there because I do think these are the top two guys we're going to be looking for to win this competition. So you do see a bit of a gap there from Tom to Evan, who I have um, in third place here, making his first World's Strongest Man podium, which hopefully he'll be happy with 43.5 points, trailed not that far behind with by Kordiaka. So Kordiaka is definitely in the realm of podium here. If he performs how if he performs at his best. Um Alongside actually Matthew Rag, who only trails Kordiaka by 39, or sorry, only trails Kordiaka by zero point 0.5 points. So I definitely think fourth place is between Kordiaka and Rag. With both of them definitely having podium potential if Evan slips up anywhere along those lines. Um, but I do think that third place is Evans to lose. Hopefully he performs at his best here. So sixth place, Ivars, which would be his best result yet in the final. I believe last final he got eighth place or something like that. So now I have him here with sixth place. And you do see a bit of a gap between Ivar's and Rag and Ivar's and Luke. So I think Ivar's is definitely pretty safe in that sixth place position. Maybe sixth or seventh, maybe fifth if anybody slips up, but sort of that mid-pack range I think Ivar's is capable of, sort of as I mentioned before. Then I have Luke here with 22 points, getting his fourth, seventh place um, at World's Strongest Man, which would be an improvement from last year, but be pretty funny to see him in seventh place again. Um, so we have an Andrade, Hoth, and Derwinski rounding out the that bottom three, the three rookies, which again don't want to underestimate them, but just going off of results, that's sort of where I have them, unfortunately. It'd be really crazy to see any one of them sort of break that top five, and I look forward to seeing what they're able to do. So then just to touch on the Atlas Stones, I do have Derwinski, Hoth, and Andrade again here towards the bottom. I have Luke with 4 points, Kordiaka 5 points in sixth place, and then I have Evan with a fifth place. Ivar's with fourth place. Ivar's is definitely a very good stone lifter. Think I honestly think the sort of fourth to sixth range can be interchangeable between these three guys, depending on, whatever circumstance. But I think they're all capable of beating each other. Maybe even Luke, because his stones are pretty good right now. Um, but not that that would change much considering his past or my predictions for how he's going to do during the competition. Then in top three in stones, I think it's pretty safe to say it'll be Rag, Hooper, and Stoltman. Rag is pretty great at stones. I think he'll be able to finish that last stone, whereas I think everybody from Ivar's and down is not so certain to actually get that last stone. So I think Rag will be able to get that last stone, and then we'll have Hooper and Tom in a final stone run together. And I think that's going to motivate Hooper to do extremely well in the stones and do what he needs to do to win this event. And we have Tom 10 points on the Atlas stones. Nobody's surprised to see that. But again, that sort of just brings it to the total points, which I do think is going to be very close between Tom and Hooper. So if Hooper slips up anywhere along these lines, gets a tacky issue on the stones, gets anybody between him and Tom on the stones, um, where else could he sort of slip here? I don't really see him slipping anywhere else, honestly. So if he messes up on the stones, I think Tom can take it, but then you also have to take into account the keg toss. I do have him a little bit low here. So if Hooper is able to perform in the keg toss, I think it's sort of wraps at that point. I think if he gets second place on the keg toss or tied second place, I think it's sort of I think Tom's chances sort of start to fade away. But that is basically it for these predictions. That's sort of all of it wrapped up. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and again, hopefully nobody gets injured during this competition. Everybody comes out of this competition healthy and performs to their best, and we can see some pretty crazy performances. But yeah, that is pretty much it. And thank you for watching.